Welcome, council, staff, and ladies and gentlemen who are joining us tonight for this public meeting. And the purpose of this report is to provide the committee and the public with background information regarding an application for a zoning bylaw amendment. At this time, I'll go to the Deputy Clerk to confirm the confirmation of notice. Madam Clerk, Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are no items to be added or deleted to the meeting.
Thank you. At this time, I'll go to our staff to introduce themselves.
Hello, everybody. My name is Vanessa. I'm one of the development planners with the town.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Derek Abbots, Manager of Development Planning.
Right. I'll go to Vanessa then to address the committee.
Good evening, members of council and members of the public listening in tonight. I'm the planner overseeing application file DEV 398 for a proposed zoning bylaw amendment at 6624 12th line, New Tecumseh. This application seeks to establish a garden suite through a temporary use bylaw and associated temporary use agreement. Tonight we have Daniel Oat from White Willow Design and True North Tiny Homes, who has prepared a presentation to speak further about the proposed temporary use, and town planning staff are present tonight to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Vanessa. And the purpose, as Vanessa says, of this report is to provide the committee and the public with background information regarding the applicant and the zoning bylaw amendment. And at this time, I ask the Deputy Clerk confirm the notice.
Thank you, Your Worship. On August 7th, 2020, a notice of complete application and notice of public meeting were circulated, and on August 27th, 2020, corresponding signage was placed on the property in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Thank you. This time I'll go to the planning consultant. Do they wish to go ahead?
I'm assuming that's me. Yeah.
Are you Daniel? Oh.
I am. Yes.
All right, sir. You're in.
Thank you very much, everyone, for this opportunity. I'm just going to share my screen here into a well, give me a second. So Daniel Ott is the correct pronunciation of my name. I'm the owner of True North Tiny Homes, but also of White Willow Design. So we've been doing engineering, architecture, interior design, and city planning type work for 10 years now for regular sized buildings and houses and new developments. And we've kind of moved into doing secondary dwellings on a lot of different properties throughout the province, as this is an increasing need for the younger generation. And before that, I was a contractor, so this sort of thing is just kind of a culmination of everything. So we're taking care of the planning as well as we are the builders of the end product. So I'm going to share my screen now to go through the rest of the presentation. So yes, this is a garden suite as a temporary use. Our client is Alicia English, and she is looking to put a temporary use building onto her parents' property at the aforementioned address. This is the layout, or proposed layout, I suppose. We need to go through some more planning details after this gets approved, but we are looking to build small houses that are completely compliant with the Ontario Building Code and also completely compliant with any township that we end up putting these in and meeting all of their planning bylaws. And that's what makes us a lot different from anyone else who would say they're building tiny homes. We're essentially building small compliant houses. So this is a brief layout of kind of what we're looking at. So 10 feet by 36 feet, so 360 square feet. There is a loft, but it is a storage loft. As per the Ontario Building Code, we have a main floor bedroom. So just enough for one person to live comfortably. The property that we are putting this on at the aforementioned address of 6624 12th line is just under an acre at 0.88 acres. The orange box in the background there, I know this screen is not clear, sorry. The orange box in the background is approximately where we want to put the garden suite, nestled in some trees behind the main house. Can't really see it too much from the road, but the idea is to build something that is looks good and blends in with the neighborhood, with the property that's already there. We have right from the bottom right corner of the garden suite to the back right corner of the house will be a trench that gets dug, and all of the services from the garden suite are going to connect directly into the main house. I'll talk about that a bit more in a moment, but the septic system is all in the front left of the house, far away from where we are. It's still doable. So we have a few renderings here of what we're proposing to build. Again, this is just artist renditions at this point as we work with Alicia to finalize design details. But again, trying to build a not quite a higher quality than a modular home, and much higher in the standards that we're meeting. Trying to make some really nice living in a small space. So kitchen and living area. We're standing in the living area looking over, and this is another view of that. There, like I said, there is a small loft, but it's for storage. It is not a sleeping loft. Looking back towards the living room, just a small space. One of the things we try to do much better than the city condos is to create a lot of natural light to make these feel larger. Again, small bathroom and a master bedroom that hopefully leaves a lot of you envious of your own bedroom. Lots of built-in storage, so we're not lacking in 360 square feet in the least. The municipal services that exist at the property are obviously electrical and city, or no, the water is a well and the sewage is a septic system. We are able to connect all of those into the main house in the back right corner. As I was saying earlier, the basement already has a sewage pump in it, so it meets the capacity needed to pump back up into the existing septic system. All of this has been looked at. Our house runs off of only 30 amp electrical service, so that's nice and easy. And the only thing we have to do for the septic bed is extend the tile bed just ever so slightly, as building will be aware at this point. So thank you. That's just nice, quick, and simple. This is what we're looking to do. I'm available for any questions. Does anyone have any?
Great. Thanks very much, Daniel. I'll go to the applicants, Tammy or Barry or Alicia. Did you wish to say anything?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Daniel pretty much has it covered.
Good. Great idea. Great. All right. Any questions from council? All right. That's pretty easy.
Excuse me, Mayor Mill.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Foster. You're in a little
thank you, Mayor
square.
Thank you, Mayor Mill. Through you to Mr. Ott. Just a couple of quick questions. You don't have, so there's no, I'm assuming a 30 amp service you would have. What do you do for a stove? And then do you have a stackable washer and dryer in there? Or how are those things being dealt with?
Mr. Ott?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair. We run the heating and the range off of propane, if possible. And the washer dryer is an apartment size combination unit that runs off of a 15 amp service. So it's not, neither of the heavy electric items are being used in these small buildings.
Good, thank you. Supplementary?
No, thank you. Actually, it's impressive. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know, I'm very impressed with it too. All right, if there isn't any other questions from council, any persons requesting further notice of a decision taken on this matter or further notice of a future meeting on this matter must notify the planning department in writing. And I'll to the English family there, what will happen is that this report will go back to Mr. Ott, and our staff will any of the wrinkles that they think there is, they'll work it out and it'll come back to council to be ratified at a later date. And I'll look towards Derek, Mr. Abbott. How long before this seems pretty simple, I'll go to Vanessa then, sorry.
Yes, sorry. Thank you, through your worship. So I think we're just waiting for the sewage design details from the applicant. So just in a second submission, and then it should be quick and easy from there.
Okay, so it's back in Mr. Ott's hands.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I look for a mover and a seconder that the report of PD 2020-28 be received, and further that staff continue to work through any issues pertaining to the application file of Development 398 prior to submitting a recommendation report to the Committee of the Whole. Mover, Councilor Noel and Councilor Foster. Any questions on the motion? The motion is carried. Thanks very much, Distinguished family. Good luck, Alicia. That's a beautiful little apartment.
Thank you very much.
Good. We'll let you know when or Derek or Vanessa will be letting you know when it comes back to council for ratification.
Okay, perfect. Now, do we stay on the call or are we
No,
going off?
you're all finished.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much,
Thank
everyone.
you. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you. Good night.
So through your worship, we're just going to take a minute and bring in the next speakers. Thank you. Okay, through your worship, all those that are requesting to speak are in the meeting. We're just going to ask that they keep their camera and their mic muted until the mayor calls you forward. Okay, and so Mr. Conte, if you can turn off your camera until the mayor calls you forward, that would be great. Thank you.
All right. The purpose of this report is to provide the committee and the public with background information regarding an application for a zoning bylaw amendment, and ask the deputy clerk for a confirmation of notice.
Thank you, Your Worship. On April 24th, 2020, a notice of complete application was circulated and corresponding signage was placed on the subject property in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. On August 26th, 2020, a notice of public meeting was circulated and corresponding signage was placed on the subject property in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Thank you. This time I go to Mr. Abbott, the Manager of Development Planning, to address the committee.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, and members of the public participating via Zoom and watching on YouTube. Before you tonight is planning application file DEV 396, which is a proposed zoning bylaw amendment at the subject property legally known as Block 142 on Plan 51M 1053 in the West Country of subdivision in the community of Beaton. The application proposes to rezone the subject property from open space to urban residential dash exception to facilitate the creation of 8 residential lots. Tonight, we have the applicant, Mr. Bob Schickadance of Farsight Homes, who is here to speak further about the proposed application and answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Just one question, Mr. Abbott. Did council request this applicant, or was this applicant brought in by the applicant?
This application was made by Mr. Schickadance of Farsight Homes.
Good, thank you. Just want to get that clear. All right, we'll go to Farsight Homes. And Bob, do you wish to do your presentation, please?
Yes, good evening, Mayor Milne and members of council and members of the public who are listening in. My name is Bob Schickadance of Farsight Homes, and we are the proponent of this particular zoning application. As Mr. Abbott has explained, the application is actually quite straightforward. The application is to rezone Block 142 on Strawn Trail in Beaton to allow for the development and construction of 8 homes on the said block The lot frontage being 10 meters wide, which is typical within that particular West Country subdivision. I don't have much further to add other than Farsight is currently building and working and finishing off in West Country site. We're pleased to report that we're almost sold out and anticipate that we would be finished our construction 12 months from now. I understand it is a disruption to the residents of the community, and certainly Farsight prides itself in doing a good job and keeping on top of the construction activity, the noise and the debris and things of that nature. Certainly I have an appreciation as well that this subdivision has a bit of a history in terms of dragging on for some period of time. And that's certainly not lost on our family business, and understand that. There's a couple other points that I would like to make to highlight to both the committee and members of the public, generally related to our particular application. First of all, in terms of the sense of open space and parkland in the area, approximately 50 acres of open space land surround this West Country community as passive open space with a trail system, albeit I know some of it still has to be completed, but for the use and enjoyment of the residents in the community, in addition to a 1.6 acre park, which still has to be fully developed with programmed parks amenities in it. I understand from the history of Block 142 that it's been a subject of some considerable discussion with staff, both planning, engineering, and in particular parks staff, and that it was deemed that Block 142 is not required in terms of providing for additional parkland space in the community. If Block 142 is developed as we're proposing, it's important to highlight that it does not restrict access to the open space block, because around the corner on Strawn Trail, there's ample room and projected to have access to the open space. So that certainly wouldn't restrict anyone in the community having access to the open space block. I'd also like to point out that as part of the Walton development, which was in which Block 142 is located, the conditions of approval required a warning clause in the subdivision agreement. And certainly it is our Farsight's common practice, and I'm anticipating, although I don't know for sure, that this warning clause would also follow through in the agreements of purchase and sale to the various homeowners in the area. And I'd just like to quote what this warning clause says for everybody's information: that purchasers and or tenants are advised that the use of Block 142 will either be conveyed to the municipality for the purposes of municipal park, or will remain with the developer for the purpose of residential lots. The other point I'd like to make is that we have made an agreement with Walton South Simcoe, which is actually in receivership, to purchase Block 142 and develop it into the proposed lots, the lots that we're proposing. I think it's important to have in the back of your mind that Walton is in receivership, and if this does not move forward, there's a strong likelihood that Block 142 will remain a vacant, undeveloped, unkept block of land for a considerable period of time. And I'd also like to highlight, actually, as a result of Farsight stepping forward and making a deal with Walton, we were able to secure $440,000 of shortfall in security that the municipality had to complete the services in the subdivision. And as a result of this, and I could provide confirmation from your solicitor, as a result of this, the town then had the funds to go in and complete the subdivision and certainly eliminate that shortfall. Last point I'd like to make is that I understand from some of the comments that I have received and reviewed that there is a concern about the road geometry immediately adjacent, the curve in the road, and people going too fast and it being dangerous. Certainly, the construction of homes, as we're proposing, would not change the geometry of the road, i.e. it would not make it any worse. And that all the proper setbacks and sight lines would be maintained just as if it was like a normal road forming a T intersection with another road. So certainly from our traffic consultant's point of view and just normally as you venture through communities and subdivision streets, this is a normal type of situation. So we would certainly not be aggravating that point. Other than that, I don't have anything, Mayor Milne and members of committee, I don't have anything further to add to what we are proposing. As I mentioned, it is quite straightforward. But that being so, I'd be more than pleased to answer any questions related to the application. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Chickenhat. And we have 8 speakers that wish to speak tonight. And we'll start off with the first speaker, Julie McMillan.
Thank you. I wasn't expecting to be first, but I guess I'm happy to speak. So I have submitted an email, and I know that many people in my subdivision actually have. Many people, as you will learn, are upset about this. The first thing that I wanted to actually mention to Mr. Schickendans, you mentioned that there was a trail system and that the passive open space was good, essentially good enough. However, it's all floodland, and I'm not quite sure how we're expected to use that passive space when it's not truly accessible. It's basically just a field that is owned by somebody else. So for us to be able to use it and count it as passive open space, I don't think that's a fair argument.
Did you wish to respond to that, Mr. Chickenhat?
Sorry, I just got to get unmuted here. I'm a little slow on the draw. So I understand. I wasn't saying that it is active parkland, but it certainly is passive. The fact that a portion of it is designated as floodplain would potentially flood under very severe conditions, but it's not flooded all the time. In fact, it's rarely flooded. And the fact that it's a field is not owned by anybody else. It's owned by the municipality. It's public space. So again, for activities like walking, hiking, or just enjoying the fresh air, certainly that's land available to do those activities. To have an active soccer game or a regulation baseball game, no, then one has to go to program space. So I'm not trying to spin it until it's something different. I recognize it, but it certainly serves as a general purpose as a lot of residents. I include myself where I live. I mean, and just enjoy a walk in the open, passive open space wherever it's available in the community.
Okay, thank you. Do you have another question, Julie?
Yes, I have actually quite a few points here.
Okay.
You mentioned that flooding wouldn't be likely to happen. We've had a flood. It was due to construction debris. But I mean, 4.5 years, we flooded about a year in, so that was fun. So I don't have very much faith in additional properties not affecting, sorry, the floodplain. Anyway, you spoke about the geometry of the road and how it would be similar to a T intersection, but it's not a T. It's actually a one-way travel, and it's not set up the same way. And even if you put up an 8-foot fence, which is regular, I guess, it's still going to obstruct the view. So I would still like council to take into consideration the fact that the first corner, when you pull into the subdivision, it's open as it's going to get. There is a house on the corner, and yet there is still a major safety concern there. So we would just be further aggravating that safety concern.
Okay. Do you want to ask all your questions, and instead of going back and forth?
Sure.
We'll get Mr. Chickadance to answer all your questions at once.
Yes, that's fine with me. I just have to review my notes. Oh, the traffic consultant. I'm also curious as to when that was done, because I read in the report something about it being done early 2010 maybe. And I just know that from being in the entrance of the subdivision, the amount of traffic, I think, has far exceeded what was expected, as it is now used as a vein into the older subdivisions as well.
Okay. Any other questions, Julie? You'll have a chance. Come back again.
I'm sure my neighbors will cover any bases that I've missed.
I'm sure they will. Thank you. Mr. Chickadance, reply to the question.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor Milne. We talked about the passive parkland, the flooding. My understanding that I don't have great detail on what caused the flooding. It was a flooding in the sewer, and it was actually due to debris that was left by the contractor in the sewer that plugged it up. Again, I am talking specifically I'm talking specifically that the floodplain in terms of major rainfall events in the open space area, we're talking about once in 100-year events and things of that nature. As far as the geometry of the road, what I was alluding to is the turn in the road is no different than if you're going along and then turning into a side street. It's the same sort of geometry. The right-hand turn, it is a sharp turn for sure. And I would anticipate and I would expect that everybody respects their neighbors and doesn't drive there super fast and be careful. There's children and you have to be careful. But certainly the bend is no sharper than turning into a side street. In terms of the traffic consultant, finally, is the last comment is that we had an engineer look at the specific geometry and the sight lines, and they've reviewed it, and again, it meets all the requirements. Again, the corner lot would have to have the proper daylighting triangle, which is the same as a corner lot where two streets intersect, as well as the appropriate setbacks, and certainly fencing wouldn't be allowed to go to the front lot line and obstruct the daylighting and that site vision. So I think those address, I hope, Ms. McMillan's comments.
Okay, thank you. The next speaker is Lucy DePria. Did I pronounce that right, Barb?
Hello, it's DePretta.
Oh, thank you.
No problem. Good evening, everyone. There's been a mix of different feelings experienced from the day my husband and I signed to purchase a home in the West Country subdivision in Beaton back in 2013. Today, our anger and frustration, have been taken over by regret. We finally moved into our home in 2016. Yet here we are today, 4 years later, and still dealing with this never-ending nightmare of a subdivision. Initially, all my experiences in the subdivision since day one had me warning many people to avoid this particular builder and developer. but not the area of Beaton, because it truly is a wonderful small town. When the town was forced to take over the upkeep and continue the completion of the subdivision, we were all hopeful that an end was in sight. But our subdivision is still far from completion, and now there is yet again a new obstacle regarding this subdivision, the area originally allocated for this open green space. So one of the main reasons we selected our lot was that there would be a green space directly in front of us. We selected our lot so our children could simply cross the street and enter and enjoy this green space. We selected our lot so we could step outside and have a beautiful view of the open green space to admire. The original site plan documented the layout of this subdivision having a pond, a walking trail, a park, and a green space. All of these items added aesthetic value. And it is what sold us on moving out of Bradford, which we were really happy in, and into this little town that we've never heard of called Beaton. And now it seems, due to financial interest, this promised green space is being denied for the residents, for the children, and for the whole community. This is wrong. This is not what was promised. This is not what the residents deserve. The sidewalks, the curbs, the trees, and sod have already been completed in front of this green space. Now this needs to be destroyed and redone, which means more construction, more dirt, more dust, more noise, more disruption, more delays, which we're kind of already used to. And I think at the end of it, it just ends up being more tax money wasted. The location, I know you mentioned, there was poses a safety concern. That sharp curve in the road that covers the entire perimeter of this green space would cause a huge blind spot with oncoming traffic due to, the height of these homes. Aesthetically, this new section of homes would also create, a visual eyesore. Literally sticking these 6 or 8 homes in the middle of an existing subdivision is not going to allow for a cohesive and natural look. The removal of this open green space, lowers the aesthetic value of the subdivision, directly affecting us, the residents. I want to thank council for listening, and I urge you to really, reflect on how this entire ordeal has left residents feeling defeated, yet we continue to come together and stand up for this wonderful small town of Beaton. We have gathered over 150 signatures from local residents on an online petition in support of keeping this green space. This community supports demonstrate that this is simply not a concern within the residents of the West Country subdivision, but a concern for the entire town. So thank you for listening and have a good night.
Thank you very much for your input. Next speaker is Lucas Ruske.
That's Rusak.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
No problem. Good evening, council. Good evening, mayor. So I was the one that went ahead and put a petition in place for my neighbors to have a voice, because I know a lot of them are busy with these hard times. With that being said, I made the petition. As we speak, as I look at it online right now, we're at 151 signatures. We have approximately 125 homes. If you do the math, I'm not a mathematician, that's almost above average of 1 signature per household. I am aware that a lot of these signatures are going to be coming from outside of our neighborhood. Statistically wise, what I'm trying to get at is that majority of the neighbors, the ones that are even considered 120 meters within this green space that we're talking about, are still going against this amendment, this development going forward. I and my family live directly on the corner of this intersection. I understand that Mr. Chicken Dance had people and his team go out and did the geometrics on this. I live on this corner. I'm out there every day. I have 2 young girls. My concern about putting houses there, it takes the blind side away from drivers. I constantly am out there while I'm doing yard work. I will see cars going by, some over the speed limit, some are patient enough or are doing the right thing and slowing down. I still watch every time when the turn happens, they avoid my residence or being closer to my house and driving on the other side of the lane. And I've constantly seen this happen. I could have recorded it. So with putting houses there, that's going to be another blind side, another view that is being blocked. You will not be able to see oncoming traffic. I would predict that there will be an accident in the near future if there is houses and stuff that are going to block the view of this residence. And I feel like I'm the one at most to speak about it because I'm literally directly on that corner. I see it every day. I leave my house every day. I see cars driving by every day. Okay. It's a big concern for myself. It's a big concern to the neighborhood. And it's a big concern for my family. Like I said, I have 2 young girls, very active, love playing outdoors. I also wanted to buy this property for the sake of I'm going to have green space there. Now, all of a sudden, years later, it's being considered to urban development. Is it fair? Of course not. I was the first person originally that moved into this neighborhood. We're talking in 2016. One house was built. Me and my wife moved in. Just me and my wife. You know, years later, we now have kids. We moved down the 5 houses down because we love this community. We love the people in the community. What is happening with how we've been treated throughout this agenda? People will say it's a nightmare. The builders was horrible. But all in all, it brought everyone close together. Everyone likes the community. And the last thing we want is to lose something that we were promised from a builder that is not going to happen if you guys go ahead and amend and approve this plan moving forward. So, council, I'd like to thank you for your time. I'd like you to consider the effects that this could cause and the disappointment you will be doing towards this beautiful community that we've developed within the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucas, and thank you for your passion. Next speaker would be Jerry Hart.
Hello?
Jerry?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Jerry.
Okay, great. So, I mean, as you can see, there's been quite a bit discussed here tonight, so I'm not going to reiterate or rediscuss, anything that everybody else has already kind of said. I mean, really, I don't really see Beaton being as a bustling town. We're community driven. So, I mean, listening to what everybody said, and obviously, short of obviously this being profit driven, I'd maybe like to hear why the applicant thinks this is a good idea and what the benefit is to the community.
Okay.
Other than profits.
Mr. Chicken Dance?
Yes, through you, your worship, to Mr. Hart. Why is it a good idea? Certainly it wasn't my, dreaming up the notion that there was adequate amount of parkland in the community to service the community. The lands haven't been designated or dedicated, I should say, as parkland. They're in private ownership to the Walton Group, and it's lands that can be developed to complete the community.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Jerry?
Yeah, so I mean, clearly we didn't really get a straight answer there. It kind of just seemed like it was a little bit of a runaround, but we'll kind of just leave that there right now. I mean, the applicant says that this will remain vacant, undeveloped land for a very long time. I'm curious to see, why does it have to be like that? Why can't it be developed green space? I mean, I've heard streams from Councillor Jeb, commending her raised garden beds and commending Parks and Recs for taking care of those garden beds for her. Why can't we have space like that? I've lived in Beaton quite a while. I've lived over on Ernest Kettle, and I can certainly tell you that our taxes that I'm paying here in West Country are double, if not triple, what I was paying when I was living on Ernest Kettle. So, and we have nothing in the subdivision. We have no parks, we have no trails. I mean, we keep talking about them, we haven't even seen them. Staying on track and focused on this green space for tonight, why does it have to go on for a very long time vacant and undeveloped? Why can't the town make that into a usable green space for our kids and for our community? Just as Councillor Jeb did in her area, why can't we have the same?
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to the next speaker, Jennifer Fada.
Hi.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just, again, like Jerry said, I don't want to say the same points over and over again.
Appreciate that.
But I do want to touch on two main things. Actually, three. They're two of the same pretty much. I am just very concerned about the two 90-degree turns coming into the subdivision. So all I'm going to say to that is I urge all of you council members and Mayor Milne to please take some time during, the 5 o'clock rush or the 8 to 9 a.m. Ending, like exiting the community, and come sit in your cars and just watch how traffic flows. There's been a number of near misses, and I know for a fact we have had an accident on that turn. I don't believe the police were called, but it did happen. So I'm just concerned that it's going to be more of an issue with these 8 homes being starting right there at these driveways. And then just touching on that point, I'm just concerned about they're 32-foot lots, so they're 1-car driveways, which then means people are going to be parking on the road, which we already kind of have an issue with at the beginning of Strachan Trail, just after the proposed lot, the block 142. So if we were to add 8 more homes with 1-car driveways, we're going to have more people parking on the road and more traffic in that area that is potentially dangerous to kids and families, especially since the pathway that we're talking about now the only access would be on Strachan in between the 90-degree turns. So I just want to touch on that. And again, I'm just going to urge you, please, before you make your decisions, come sit on the road and watch how people drive and make your own decisions, because it's not a T intersection. There will be no stop sign. It is a 90-degree turn and it's on a slope, and I'm just concerned for the safety. And kind of the last point I want to make is we just got a road, 11 months ago, and it's going to be torn up again because of construction. And these lots are not service. So it's going to be, a long road to getting them to where they need to be before we can even start building homes. I spoke at the last council meeting just about the actual far site development that's currently under construction. And my biggest concern was that these homes weren't going to match the aesthetics of our community. So, Mr. Chicken was very nice and was able to explain to me how it would, and he sent me the plans, and I have to say he was great to deal with. But now we're talking about 8 homes that are plopped right at the beginning of a subdivision that's already existing. So I'm just concerned that it's never going to match. The homes that are there now do not match, but I mean, it is a whole other identity, I guess. So I just kind of learned to deal with it. But these new homes are not going to be aesthetically pleasing. And, we weren't, I can't say we were promised, but in our purchase agreement is all these pages about this green space. And this is one of the major selling features that led us to purchase here and not say in Devonlea or in Tottenham. It was going to be, a parkette, and we were going to have more. Sorry, can you guys hear me? I have says I'm unstable. Okay, sorry, I got a notification. So, we bought here because of this parquet, and we bought here because it was going to have the pass system, and it was pretty appeasing to see that, we'd have like a little bench and some sort of, pergola or whatever it's going to be to make it look cute. And it's now not going to be that because it was purchased as green space / a parquet to Farsight Homes, and now it's being, this whole meeting's about it being rezoned. So I just feel that it should stay a parquet and should stay green space, because that's kind of what we wanted when we purchased this home, and why one of the main selling features for it was the parquet. So those are my only points, and I just want to say thank you for speaking. And if you have anything you want to add, please feel free.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. And our next speaker, are you finished? Did you have anything else, Jennifer?
No, I don't. If Mr. Chickendance has any comments, he can make them. I don't have any more comments. I don't want to say the same things over.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chickendance, did you wish to respond?
No, I don't think, Ms. Fata, thank you for your comments. I don't think I have anything further to add. Just to reiterate about the geometry of the roadway, this proposal is not altering that geometry of the roadway at all. It is as it is, and we're not compounding the problem there. Again, there's restrictions with daylighting and how close buildings, structures, or fences, or even landscaping can come to the street line. So that view would not be altered according to our calculations and our engineering assessment of the situation. And other than that, I don't have anything further to add.
Thank
Your
you.
worship.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chickendance. And our last speaker is.
Sorry, can I say something? Do I have an
Of course.
opportunity to say one more thing?
Of course you can.
So you're right, it doesn't alter the actual roadway. That is completely true. But what it is going to alter is that we're going to have a driveway, possibly 50 to, I don't even know how many meters it'd be. I'm not that great with math, but we're talking, one house length, so 32 meters away from the corner. So I'm just concerned that this 32 meters away from the corner is then going to have a traffic issue with people turning that very sharp corner, going oftentimes too fast, right into someone's driveway where they could be backing up, or there could be a car parked there, or there could a kid coming out of the driveway to cross the road. So those are just my only concerns. You are totally right. It doesn't alter the roadway. I'm just concerned with the roadway being altered by these houses.
Thank you. Thank you for clearing that up. And our last speakers are Mr. and Mrs. Aldo Henrietta Cote.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Conte.
I'm sorry.
No worries. No worries. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I'll be quick as well. I guess there's no need to go over. I didn't hear anyone mention about premiums that were paid for the lots as well for that. That's a small issue, but what it really comes down to here is safety. The geometry might still work. I mean, there's a lot of geometries in today's world, whatever it is that the bare minimum is legal, but that's not saying that that's right. I am neighbors with the Ruseks, Lucas, who just spoke not too long ago. We are actually side-by-side neighbors. On the southeast side of this development, we do not have a sidewalk. And Mr. Rusek, Lucas, he can attest. I've had 2 run-ins where the police was called with cars that are come whipping by here and such like that. So, I mean, at the end of the day, as everyone has mentioned, what was promised is one thing here. So we won't go over all that. What it does come down to is exactly that. It comes down to the safety, where we already have, you get anything happen on this street and it is chaos. I as well have a 4-year-old child, and it is already as dangerous as it can get. And I would just, and not to throw the guilt, but should this development go through, I mean, I hope it wouldn't be, it would rest on somebody's head, the safety, because it is already as detrimental as it can be. As I said, we have no sidewalks here. So when we need to cross, it's already a headache as it is. And I think really that's the main part. I do also want to address, is there any specific reason, as you mentioned, Mr. Schickendance, there's lots of land in the area. What this land here was promised somewhat. Why can't we develop somewhere else? If there's so much land, why does this land have to be developed? If it's as far as maintenance issues, maybe the city can come together, or the neighbors can come together. If it really comes down to, well, the city doesn't want to look after it for maintenance reasons, whether it be a park or green grass that has to be cut. I mean, I think that would be a sad reason to lose the space, other than this is pure profit for the developer and the city. And that's really what we're talking about here. Because if we get 500 petitions here, or 1,000 petitions, does it even matter? I mean, I don't know if the council even wants to address this. Does it matter, all this that we're doing here tonight, when at the end of the day, it's really going to go nowhere because everything is already in motion? I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm getting it wrong, but it sounds Mr. Schickendance is already, it's like, it's a done deal. Maybe I've misunderstood here. Sounds like this is already going, whether we like it or not. Everything's covered. We have the legalities. I understand you probably have a few lawyers already looked over everything, the geometry, as you say. But again, it doesn't cut it. If it goes through, it would be a tragedy and not what was promised for many reasons, as I'd mentioned as well, for paying a premium and a safety concern are really the main issues, whether anyone can bring anything else to it or not. That's really it.
Okay, just to clarify part of your statement there, and no disrespect to you.
No, I meant none as well. I didn't mean, sorry if I.
That way,
Yeah.
no, this is a public meeting.
Thank you.
There's been no decisions made.
Okay.
It's not a done deal.
Okay.
There's still a lot of work that has to be done.
Thank you.
This will go back to back to our staff. Actually, it goes back to Mr. Schickendance. All the concerns that he's here tonight, our staff are sitting here, of course.
Okay. Yes, I meant no disrespect.
There's lots of meetings, and
thank you.
This might not happen for who knows.
Okay. Thank you. That's pretty much all I had as well. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
On behalf of council, I do appreciate you and Lucas for taking the time out and checking with your neighbors, getting petitions and that, and bringing actually the neighborhood closer together and something like this. We do appreciate that.
We do.
Thank you. Okay. I'll go to council now. Questions from council? Can we just make the screen a bit bigger so I can see them? Okay, Councillor Sainsbury.
Thank you, Your Worship. When the report comes back for committee of the whole, and then of course it goes on to council, tonight's not the night we make the decision. If Mr. Abbott's could put the paragraph, when you purchase a home, I was in real estate for 16 years long before I was 25 years in government. And they're sort of similar. People go out and buy a nice home and assume that the field behind them is always going to be a farm field. But however, if that paragraph that was in the subdivision agreement, which when you purchase a home, your lawyer that closes the deal for you should do due diligence to point out these things, that are you aware of this and are you aware of that and are you aware of whatever. And so many years have passed. This was on the agenda and I've been 11 years on this council and we dealt with it way back when Mayor McEachran was the mayor actually. So I know that the intent has probably gone out of most people's minds related to this patch of ground surrounded by the open space. So I just thought it would be helpful if that paragraph could be in the report when it comes back so everyone can see that nobody was hiding anything. It's always said what it says and that we can't just leave it a weed patch. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Okay, thank you. I'm looking for a move in our, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry, Councillor McClellan. You're just low square on my screen.
Thank you so much. I have quite a few points, so I'll just run through them all just to put them on the record, and staff can go back and forth with Mr. Schickendance with them.
Great, thank you.
Okay, where do I start? So there, page 81 in the 2009 Parks and Rec Master Plan stated specifically Beaton doesn't have enough parkland to the south, to the east, to the west. Since Since 2009, we've gained one park, and I believe it's considered a parkette because of its size. The OMB approval for West Country states the town is supposed to be conveyed 2 park blocks. That agenda is from the March 21st, 2011, CW 8, page 56 of the agenda actually shows the map. At this point, these 2 blocks that we're talking about today, the one that is actually the park, which is 143, and the one we're talking about specifically is 142. On this map, what went through the OMB is block 166 and 167. So I'm not sure at what point in the process all these blocks got renumbered, but at this point in 2011, that's what those 2 blocks were referred to. When, so the Parks and Rec comment that was on our agenda tonight about the low-lying hazard lands available for passive recreation. But in our current official plan, page 114V, EP1 and EP2 hazard lands shall not be considered as parkland. So it's not an appropriate substitution. I'd like to know if the MVC was asked about this particular land that they want to build the 8 houses on, because it's very, very close to the stormwater management pond. And the stormwater management, that road was constructed, the stormwater management pond was constructed, all as that land being left as parkland. So it would be good to know if the MVCA has any concerns with that. When Farsight came to council last year to pass through their current, the second phase of West Country, which they're currently building right now, the committee agenda from June 24th, again, the park blocks, the 2 of them, are referred to as block 166 and 167 on the map on page 85. And it says all required parkland dedication was completed for the entire subdivision in phase 1. Consequently, no additional dedication is required. Well, in phase 1, what was required and dedicated was 2 parkland blocks, not just 1. So again, the Committee of the Whole, June 24th, 2019, Farsight subdivision agreement. The parkland dedication for this phase has been met as part of the overall draft plan. If there are actions in the future to redevelop lands within the plan, the status of the parkland will be reconsidered accordingly. Just let me see that I got all my points. So another question I have is, do both parkland blocks belong to the developer still? Do we even own the one that's supposed to have a block there? Or sorry, supposed to have a park there? Another question, do the hazard lands, the low-lying lands, belong to the developer? Or do, as Mr. Chicken Dance suggested, do they belong to the town because they're low-lying hazard lands? I'm not sure, but I would like an answer to that. So finally, this, if we go back to the very beginning of West Country, when it was just them talking about what this development was going to be, the original proposed development went from having 2 ball diamonds in it, 2 parks surrounded by trails, to a redevelopment with 1 park that's not even close to completion. It hasn't even started. No ball diamonds, the 1 trail that's around the stormwater management park. You can't even push a stroller because it's the big, I'm not even sure what kind of gravel it is, but it's the big, huge gravel. It's not for passive walking. No explanation as how the second piece of parkland somehow still belongs to the developer, when all through the OMB hearing decision and all through phase 1, we were supposed to be conveyed 2 parkland blocks. So I think we really have to look. I know the subdivision has been difficult for everyone involved since day 1, especially the residents. But I think, and it's very hard to dig around for this stuff because of everything that's gone on and how long it's taken. But I think we really need to dig deep here and realize that these people were sold these houses And the amount of times that people say, well, that's not what the developer told me, is really disheartening, because people love the town, they love New Tecumseh, they love Beaton, but they feel betrayed because they were sold a lie. And this is, for most of us, the biggest investment we'll ever make in our life. So I will put all that in an email, and hopefully it can be addressed before it comes to committee, because I think it's very important we look into why these 2 parkland blocks were not conveyed to the town, because we don't have enough. If we didn't have enough in 2009, we still don't have enough, because we've only gained 1 park since then. So thank you.
Good, thank you. And you're quite correct, Councilor McClellan. All that information that you spoke about tonight will be dealt with before it ever gets back to council. That's one of the things that they have to work that out. And good questions there. I understand, Madam Clerk, that I've missed somebody and they wish to speak, and I believe it's, if you could help me with the name, I believe it's Surtees.
I believe it's Tivia Surtees, and I believe they've just entered using telephone.
Good, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Yes, it's Tivia Surtees. I do live in the West Country subdivision within a certain diameter of this green space that we're talking about. And I wanted to stand with and support my neighbors, because majority of us do feel strongly about having and keeping that green space. I bought many years ago and was one of the first within the first year to move in. And I came to Beaton, and specifically West Country, to start and grow my family. And there was a certain appeal to do with West Country, the green space being one of them. And we purchased within that vicinity for a reason. We want our family to be able to enjoy a certain lifestyle, and so do many of us. There's lots of young families. We're a great neighborhood. We all get along greatly as well, and we feel very strongly that we want that green space. It was promised to us. We purchased with a certain expectation. A lot of our promises, I feel like, fell on deaf ears, and I apologize for coming on late, so I may have missed, and I may be repeating what others have said, but I do think it's vital and it's important for us to have that. Considering that we do pay property taxes, we would like to see things like the green space be a part of what we're paying for. We would like to be able to take pride in our subdivision. It's been a really long road for many of us. A lot of us bought in 7-8 years ago. We were delayed, and we would just like to see this complete. This is a huge investment for my husband and I in terms of purchasing our first home. It has a lot of sentimental value. We take great pride in our home. We take great pride in our neighborhood and our subdivision. And I do feel like a lot of my neighbors do feel the same as well. And I feel like it would be nice to have this completed and have us settled and in our space that we take so much pride in. A lot of us invest in our homes, and we would like to have that piece completed. We would just like to have something followed through on, is basically my point.
Good, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And council appreciates the time you took to sit and wait to get in and speak to us tonight on this matter. Is there anything else you wish to say?
No, I think I've pretty much said everything. Again, I apologize for coming on late. I may have missed what others have said, but I just wanted to stand in solidarity with my neighbors, as we all do feel strongly about having that green space and having it completed, and for our families, and like I said, taking pride and also having fulfillment on the promise of what this subdivision was meant to be. Even though a lot of our promises fell through, we just I don't think we can really take any more disappointments at this point.
I see you have a bit of a challenge in the background there, so we'll let you
Yes,
go.
that's my little one.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on council wish to speak before I close?
Sure.
Councillor Sainsbury.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wondered if we could, through you to Councillor Jebb, clarify the issue related to the raised gardens. I don't think they're in Councillor Jebb's ward. It sounded like they thought that something was being done in that ward. I just think it's fair to clarify if Councillor Jebb would do that, where these gardens are and what ward they're in.
Councillor Jebb.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Sainsbury. The raised gardens is actually, and you will know this, on the former dump area of the town of Alliston. And it belongs to the town, the property, and it's got a huge vent on it. And it was just being wasted space. And our Women's Institute approached the town that we would work on getting the gardens, and we got the boxes made and volunteered our time, and we have a volunteer to organize the people that plant the gardens. And we were aiming at seniors and people in apartments. That was our main focus. And it was the Women's Institute that was pushing for those community gardens. And it is in the town of Alliston. And it, as the mayor remembers, it's formerly the dump.
All right, thank you very much for clearing that up. Any persons requesting further notice of the decisions taken on this matter or further notice of future meetings on this matter must notify the planning department in writing. A mover and seconder that report of PD 2020-29 be received, and further that staff continues to work through any issues pertaining to application file of development 396 prior to submitting a recommendation report to the committee of the whole. A mover, Councillor McClellan and Councillor Harrison McIntyre. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And adjournment at
Your Worship, I move that we adjourn at 8:17.
Sorry, before you go, the deputy mayor has put up his card at least a dozen times. So in fairness to him, I don't know if he wants to speak, but I'm not sure if you could see him.
I don't even have him on the screen.
Well, that's why I wasn't sure you saw him. So if he has a chance to speak or whatever.
Deputy Mayor, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Thank you, Your Worship. I thought maybe you were mad at me. I would like to take 30 seconds, please, if I may, and I'll be really quick. I just want to thank all the residents, and I know Council does, appreciate all your concerns, and you've really raised a lot of legitimate concerns. I know tonight's a public meeting for you to have tonight, and we will be having a fulsome and a wholesome discussion on some of the points that Councillor McClellan had raised when it comes to a committee. I just had a couple of messages that people have sent me today. I just want to be clear, Your Worship, that this application was not put in by the town of New Tecumseh. This application was put in by Schick and Nance Homes or Farside Homes. They're the ones that are driving this process, and they're the ones that want to purchase the property and do this. And I just want to assure the residents that the town, we have no desire for us to build homes. Once again, it's Farside Homes and Schick and Nance that initiated this process tonight. And my understanding is that under the Provincial Planning Act with the province of Ontario, they do have the legal right to instigate these types of meetings, a public meeting, when they own property or are purchasing property, to make sure they advise the residents on what their future plans are. So, Your Worship, I just wanted to clarify and make sure the residents know that this is not being driven by the town of New Tecumseh. It's being driven by somebody else, and we're making sure the residents have an opportunity to have their say, and we listen to what you have to say, we understand what you have to say, and we have the same concerns on a lot of the issues, and then we'll deal with them, Your Worship, in an expeditious manner as quickly as we can, and we'll make sure that we communicate back to them. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. Councillor Foster, thank you. I thought maybe my screen was frozen. I wasn't sure. Thank you, Your Worship.
No, you weren't on my screen. I didn't know. But thanks anyway. Thanks, Councillor Foster. All right. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.